Hello and welcome to The Wilderness of Creativity, a platform for creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs to share their stories of survival. I'm your host, Lucy, and I'm so excited to share this creative journey with you. Working full-time and raising a small human has caused me to lose track and wander off-piste on several occasions, but I followed the signs and here we are, surviving the wild and feeling more connected and inspired than ever before. Whether you're a seasoned adventurer or just starting out, I'm here to cheer you on as you navigate this journey. Together, we will uncover practical tips and strategies for cultivating creativity, explore different ways of prioritising our creative energy when there are people to please and deadlines to meet. And we'll also discuss how we can foster a mindset that inspires connection, innovation and play in our daily lives. Tune in every month to hear how my guests find focus in a world that never stops buzzing and discover what it really means to take the road less travelled. Subscribe now to listen to The Wilderness of Creativity and remember to like, share and leave a review to show your support. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, so come and join in with our conversations. And that's it. Welcome to your next adventure.
It's incredible. There's something like about 650 units on this site.
Wow.
It's one of the biggest single unit sites in the UK.
After an impressive 35-year career dedicating himself to teaching and working with children and young people, Anthony Nicolaou has transitioned into a new chapter in his life, devoting his time to creating stunning works of art. He predominantly focuses on painting using both oil and watercolour to bring his visions to life. Anthony's journey into the art world began with a foundation course at Chelsea, which laid the foundation for his subsequent studies on the BA Fine Art course at Hornsey School of Art. In the episode, we talk about Anthony's experience of working in the youth service and the role of art in society, as well as his early childhood memories of drawing with his mother. Okay, are you ready? Let's get to the episode. So how long have you been there then?
Yes, I looked that up today. This was started in, I think, 2010, and I joined in 2012.
Wow. Are you going to take me on a little tour?
I'm going to take you on a little tour. This is me. Welcome to my world.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
This is my studio. They're my paintings up on the wall, some prints, some more paintings, oil on canvas. They're mostly all of Blackfriars Bridge, and that one there's of the Oxo Tower, but all taken from the same point. But it's amazing to be here. I'm really lucky.
How often do you kind of go to the studio then?
Now, quite a bit.
Now that you're retired?
Yeah. Now that I'm retired, yes, from teaching, I'm here most days, which is really good. I do like it here. But my studio, with the furniture, you can see it, but the furniture is all the stuff from my old place in West London that my wife didn't want in our home. So I thought, okay, I'll bring it to the studio. So I've recreated my kind of bachelor's pad here in the studio, which is good because I feel at home here. I mean, in the real sense. I've got all my equipment and materials. It's a bit cluttered in one corner, lots of boxes with materials and equipment.
Oh, that's okay.
I know where everything is. Well, it's cluttered, but it's really well organised. Everything's in its place. I like that. I like to create a well-organised environment in which I can then create chaos. What
sort of questions stood out for you the most? Should we start there?
I did a teaching qualification, a PGCE, years ago. I think 1980, and decided back then I didn't really want to get into teaching. I became a youth worker, which I found really exciting and really enjoyable. But when I took redundancy back in 2012, 2011, I thought, what am I going to do now? I've still got some years ahead of me. What work should I do? And I thought, well, I've got this certificate, a qualified teacher. So really, I'd taken the redundancy, but my funds were diminishing. And I thought, got to do something. So I joined 2 agencies and they got me work. And then before long, I was working full terms. And that's how I got into teaching. And then eventually got into teaching full time for the last part of my career. I'm glad I did. And I think I wasn't ready to do that at the beginning. I think I needed to gain some life experiences first. And but when I did get into teaching, after 2 years of being a cover supply teacher, I was ready to go full time, and taught drama, and then my particular specialism, which is art, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And a few months ago, I was at my hairdresser's. And this girl was washing my hair and she started asking questions. I said, yeah, I was a teacher. And she said, oh, what school? And I told her. She said, oh, my cousin went there. And I said, really? I said, does she do art? She said, oh, yeah, she's really into it. I said, well, what's her name? And she told me her name. I thought, oh, my God, she was in my class. So I said, well, what is she doing now? She's doing a fine art course in Canterbury. I thought, oh, you've just made my day.
Oh, made my day. I love those stories when they come back to you and you realise that you have made such an impact on someone's life. It's so heartwarming. I love it.
Yeah, I'm so pleased.
That's so good. And I'm sure, I didn't know you did youth work before you went into teaching. What was that like?
I did that for a number of years. What I liked about youth work was the freedom not to have to follow a rigid curriculum. They started to introduce a kind of a curriculum because we had to have outcomes eventually.
Yeah.
But what was nice was being the ability to engage with young people and really find out who they are and what their issues are.
Yeah.
And to be able to have the time to help them on a one-to-one basis, or to just out of the blue come up with a group activity that you think would benefit the entire group because they share similar interests. And I love that. Always thinking on my feet. I think it was back in the early 80s. There's one particular young person who was really into roller hockey. I thought, oh, where do you play that? Where do you do that? He said, well, I've got the skates and I've got the equipment, but I just with one or two of my mates. I thought, well, wouldn't you like to, play against a team? So in the end, and empowering him to take charge, we got a group of people. We used the hall, and once a week in the evening we played roller hockey. It was brilliant. There was such energy, such enthusiasm, and they really got a lot out of it.
Yeah. Both of us have worked in education you've been in education for, was it 35 years?
Over 35 years working with children and young people.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of changes that have happened as well in education. I mean, where do you see creativity sitting in schools these days? And has it changed over the sort of 3 decades?
Well, some schools consider their art department to be really key to the curriculum that they offer, and some schools don't. And they might lean towards something else, and that's understandable. But I think all children, young people, should be able to explore who they are, what they're thinking, what they're feeling through art, because art is such a vital journey, I think, in our lives to realizing, who you are, where you are, what you want out of life, and to exchange cultural ideas, because it is an exchange of ideas and communication.
Sort of the role of art in society. Do you want to kind of touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's a hard one to quantify, isn't it? But it does the point I made earlier. I think it makes us aware of the world around us, and it exposes ourselves to other cultures and other ideas and belief systems, which I think is quite useful. And it enables us to develop an understanding of who we are and what we are together within society. And I think that is really important. I look back to when I was at Chelsea Art School, and I'd come from, formal education. And at Chelsea Art School, I was surrounded by teachers, tutors, who were themselves practitioners. They were artists, and some of them quite famous. I went to some of their exhibitions, and the environment was all about art. It was just art students producing artwork. And it was amazing to see some of the processes that people were using, because it was, I'd used paint and drawing materials, but at art school, I discovered mostly 3D materials that you could use for the first time. And that was really good. And I think as well, to the whole world of art and the art students that I met and made friends with, the films that we went to see at the cinema, which were just mind blowing, like Eraserhead and other films, and the music scene, and the books as well, because one of the books that we were told, on our list that we needed to read was John Berger's Ways of Seeing, which is a classic. And I read that, and that just opened my mind. So the experience of art school just really opened me up to a whole new other world that I hadn't really recognized or explored before.
And you're sitting in school and you're so used to the four walls or the world just beyond the school gate, to then have the wider world shown to you, introduced to you. You do see children's eyes light up.
I think one of the things that it does is, when you take young people out of their own home environment and you put them somewhere else, you take them somewhere else, that it opens up the question, how do I sit in this environment? And that's really important, because the world is really big. As a youth worker, we were lucky enough because we had a minibus. I thought, right, I'm going to organise a day trip to the coast, because a lot of the people, young people on this estate, have never seen the sea. And what an experience that was for them, and for me, watching them look at this vastness of blue and think, God, what's over the other side? And that's great.
It's so inspiring. Do you miss being in the classroom, Anthony, or are you really happy with retirement? Because I'm looking forward to it.
But I like the fact, listen to that, there's no noise. There isn't. I started this podcast with you in the corridor. There were no hundreds of young people rushing to get to another class, all screaming and shouting. So I don't miss that. I do miss some of the discussions I had with individuals and with the class as a whole, because whenever I could, I spoke about art history, about particular artists, about their lives, and about some of the methods that they used and how they explored new ways of seeing. And I really like that, because I felt like I was really opening their minds up to all kinds of possibilities, so that they could then reflect about what they could do creatively themselves.
Who are you inspired by, and what sort of style do you create art in?
That's a good question. I think it goes back to my preschool days, and my mother's Spanish, from Galicia, and they have their own language, from northern Spain, just above Portugal. My father's Cypriot. My father, a political refugee, and my mother, an economic refugee, and they met here in London. And we were lucky enough to have a house in West London in Maida Hill. And we're sort of like equal distance to Maida Vale Station and Warwick Avenue Station. I love the area. It's become very cosmopolitan now, which is brilliant. And I do miss living there. I've lived there over 30 years. And I remember one Saturday afternoon, I was getting bored, and I was there with my comic. It was the Dandy comic. And she could see I was bored, and she finished all the housework and food was ready. And so she sat down at the table, and she got a sheet of paper and a blue biro pen. And she looked at the character whose story I was reading, and it was Desperate Dan. And she started drawing him, making a copy of him. And
Wow.
I must have been about, I don't know, 3.5, 4. I was that young. And I was just absolutely astounded. This was the first experience of me watching somebody draw. And I thought, well, that's incredible. I mean, I've really enjoyed these comics. And now you're recreating this character and all the detail is exactly accurate. So I think that point in my life inspired me to do art. And of course, what I started doing was copying these characters out of comics and Disney characters, and then Marvel comics and DC comics, and that was it. I was lucky enough that my teacher, Miss MacDonald at primary school, she recognised I had some skills, so she thought, we're going to enter some exhibitions and some competitions. And we won some prizes and awards for my school. I think we won a Budgie Guard on one occasion, and I think one of my drawings ended up on the cover of a book. But
Wow.
still, I've yet to find that book. So she was really supportive.
You know what the book was called?
No, I was looking that up today, and I couldn't find it. But I did this Native American Indian, and so that was the design
So
of
do
the
you
book.
still draw comic book characters, or have you moved away from...
No, I've moved. I've got them somewhere. I've got them in a portfolio somewhere in
It's so
storage.
lovely to look back over things like that as well and realise where you've come from, and those little sparks of creativity that ignited such a huge fire in your belly.
Yes. Well, today, funnily enough, I had my oldest son was over with his partner and their daughter, who's 2. She's really taken to me. She just keeps repeating, "Granddad, Granddad, Granddad." Yeah, I sat her down. I said, "All right, look, Granddad's going to do a drawing for you. What would you like?" She said, "A bunny rabbit." And she loved it. And then I did a dog. I said, "Well, you draw something now." And she did a rabbit, and very abstract.
Yeah.
But the lines, because she's using line. There's obviously no shading at this stage. She can use colours as well, but in this instance, she was using line, using a pencil, and she drew this rabbit, and I could see the rabbit's form, and I could see the rabbit's eyes, and then the ears were just like over its head, like it was sprinting. I thought, this is just amazing. Yeah, so I've kept that. And then she went and picked some of the flowers out of my garden, so I've kept those as well.
Oh. Do you tend to do a lot of line drawing, or is it more oil painting now and watercolours and things like that?
Mostly oil painting. I'm working on this one at the moment, but this one takes in a lot more detail. So you've got on the left bank, you've got St. Paul's Cathedral, and over on the right, you've got the Oxo Tower. But I'm finding it really difficult because there's so much detail, and I'm working from a digital photograph, so I'm having to use a special pair of glasses that I don't normally use, and a magnifying glass. Yes, this one, this rather large one here.
Yes, it is.
So I'm using that.
Do you tend to draw that bridge then? Why is that, do you think?
Some years ago, must have been, I don't know, 2016, I think it was. I was a member of the BFI, the British Film Institute, and I'd just seen this amazing Spanish film, I think from the 50s, of the Spanish Civil War. And I came out, and it was nighttime, and I just was mesmerised by the Thames and by the buildings on the other side of the river and the lights and the way all these colours reflected on the water. I thought, it's just amazing. Sometimes you take the city for granted and you ignore all of these amazing things. So I thought, I'll take a little walk, a little stroll down the river towards the Oxo Tower. And just before the Oxo Tower, there's a kind of a jetty or an area for pedestrians, and there's some benches there. And the view from there is amazing. So I took loads of pictures. And I like the pictures. I like the effects. But I didn't know what I would do with them. I thought I'd just, taking a picture of a scene that I enjoy. And it wasn't until a little while later I went to Tate Britain to see an exhibition. I'm a member of the Tate. And I go to all their major exhibitions. And I get a lot of inspiration from seeing other people's work. I thought, after the exhibition, I'd look at the main galleries and came across 2 paintings by the artist Whistler. And they're not very big. And one's called Nocturne Blue and Silver, Chelsea.
Yeah.
And the other one's called Nocturne Blue and Gold, Old Battersea Bridge. And I found them really interesting. And I found that I was really drawn to them. And I read up on these paintings, and it turns out that Whistler was on a steamship heading back to Westminster, and it was sunset, and he looked across the river towards Chelsea, and the light shimmering on the water, and the colour of the sky, and the lights in the distance of, Chelsea village. It just really inspired him. So instead of going home, he went straight to his studio and he painted it from memory. And I love it. And then the one of Battersea Bridge is also amazing. Again, a nocturne. I mean, his full name is James McNeill Whistler, but people will remember him for painting Whistler's mother. There was a chap called Frederick Leyland who then went to see this exhibition, and both these paintings that he'd done that night, and both the paintings there was that one, and there was Variations in Violet and Green. Those were the 2 paintings, that and the one that I saw, which was Blue and Silver. He looked at them, and he coined the phrase nocturne, and that's what I call my series of paintings. I've got about 8 of them. They're my nocturnes. And Whistler heard this, and he kind of liked the term, so he kept to it. So he referred to the works that he did later as his nocturnes. And what it basically means, he was describing Whistler's moonlit scenes. And what it does, it suggests the notion of a night scene, but with musical associations. And I like that, because when I left the BFI and I stood there admiring the River Thames, all these lights reflecting on the water, it just seemed to be like a dance of precious jewels that just lit the city at night. I thought, this is just wonderful. And it's when I saw these 2 paintings at the Tate, I looked back at the pictures I took of the river. I thought, can I paint those? I thought, yeah, you should have a go. So I did. I came to the studio, I set up 3 easels, and I thought, I'm going to start on 3 of them simultaneously. One of them was the Oxo Tower, and I was quite pleased. And I've done several more, and I've got several more ideas to continue with. We're really lucky here. We've got a very large exhibition gallery here, but apparently it's all booked up to 2025 or 2026. But when we have open studio events here, which happens over a weekend in the month of June, they open the gallery and you can submit work there. And I've submitted work to the exhibition, and we all, a lot of us open our studios to the general public, and they come along and we have a chat and we talk about art and about life and about where they're from. It's just, it's amazing. It's really enjoyable.
How can we get out of feeling isolated? I mean, obviously everything seems to have gone online since COVID, but, do you recommend sort of young artists or people who want to get involved in art try and find a studio, or try and find somewhere where they do have open sort of studio time?
For some people, it's a case of working from home. But if you're working from home, I think you also need to make an effort to get out of your local location and go to art galleries or join a workshop. We're quite lucky. We've got a print workshop, and I've been there and I've learned how to do some printing techniques, and I've used those to create some work. But there's also lots of other groups, and I think the Royal Academy and the Tate have sessions, evening sessions, where artists or other people in the art world will speak about a specific thing, and it's really good to go along to that. You meet people who are interested in art, and you can discover things. If you can, art studios. There are lots of art studios across London, and luckily the one I'm at, it's affordable and it's secure. So I'm really lucky there, and it's sustainable, and it's long-term studio space. What they had here before was there was a company here since 1863, the Simmons Brothers Telegraph Works Factory. And I'm in the old building, the old brick building with the great big arch windows. And I'm lucky that my arch window overlooks the river. So they were here, producing bits of equipment for telegraph, the telegraph system back then. But then it got taken over by MFL, and they started in 2010. But the other thing that you've got here is that you've got a print studio, you've got a photography studio, you've got the Gate darkroom, which I want to go and use. It's a darkroom where you can take 35mm negatives or medium format negatives, and you can develop them in the old photographic process. It's got the London sculpture workshop. It's got a picture framer. It's got an education space, and it's got lots of social areas. And it's got 2 cafes, and one of them is Ethiopian. So the food there is amazing. So I'm really lucky here. I'm surrounded by, and I know everybody on this floor, and I've been to some of their exhibitions. So I'm in that world. It's great. But if you're not in that world, you need to get out there. I've got lots of memorable moments, but one of my earliest memorable moments was when I was doing the teacher training course, and I got a placement in a school in Tottenham, and I asked the class to next week bring in a shoe with character, because you're going to be drawing that using multimedia. Multi-mediums, charcoal, soft pastels, pen, pencil, and they came in. They all brought in a shoe, and they placed the shoe on their desk, and I gave them some cartridge paper, and they started drawing. And I went round the room, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of really lovely drawings being produced here. They're all lovely. But I spotted from the corner of my eye this one boy who he seemed to me like he was struggling. And he had this old, worn, dark boot that he was drawing. And he managed to scratch and scrape parts of the surface of the paper. And I don't know, I thought, is he happy with what he's producing? When he finished, I took a closer look at his work, and it moved me. This drawing, and I did give him feedback, I thought had captured the essence of this boot, with its worn, because part of the leather was worn, and he had scraped the paper to create this effect. I mean, that is the essence. That is creativity, isn't it? Because he's problem solving. He's doing an observational drawing of this boot and thinking, how do I draw that area of leather which is all just scratched and scruffed, and he found a way. And I still have that drawing. It really meant something, to me. The last school I worked at, again, I think it was a GCSE class, and there was a young man in that, and he struggled with drawing, but his drawings, for me, I thought were the most interesting, the most inspirational, because they were full of energy, full of emotion, and he found his own way, because he wasn't adhering to conventional, methods of producing art. It was just, for him, it was like a completely blank canvas, and these are the materials I've got, so take them. And just, his lines were incredible. Yeah. And he did really well. I just find it bizarre that, year 7, 8, and to some extent year 9, we expect them to really observe what it is that they're drawing, whether it's an observational drawing or whether they're making a copy from, a handout. And we're showing them, like, for example, drawing the three-dimensional sphere with its tonal values and where the light is coming from and where the cast shadow. We get them to perfect that only to the place where, if they decide to do a GCSE O level or an A level, we expect them to become really creative and do something that is completely them. When all this time you're just teaching, no, look, it's got to be like this. Use the pencil like this and try and create this effect. And here's some techniques that you could learn. That's a bit bizarre, isn't it?
I mean, it's the same when we learn to play a musical instrument. I know how to do it. I know the basic principles, but now I'm going to turn those principles on their head.
That's a good point. We do need to teach them the basic principles, only to get them to break the rules at the end and produce something really that is unique and individual. But it's easy to teach them the basic principles and get them to get it right and perfect. But how do we then teach them to undo all of that? And that's where it becomes complicated, because how do you then teach, proper creativity? Because creativity, in my opinion, it's a problem-solving process, isn't it? It's like that boy who did that observational drawing of that boot. He found a solution to the problem and created something that was really quite unique and original. But not everyone does that, because everyone is conditioned to believing that you've got to, if you're going to draw an apple, that it's got to look like this. It doesn't have to be. I think Pablo Picasso showed us that, certain objects don't have to look anything like what they look like. You just, you create an essence of it. And it's about being adept at forming original ideas, and that's hard to teach, isn't it? Because that's got to come from them, and it's almost like you've got to be able to somehow, as a teacher, reach in there and turn this switch enough for them to take it on and to create it themselves and to recognize that they can see differently. And that's a bit hard to do.
It's particularly hard to do when you are constrained by teaching certain things. You have the curriculum to stick to. I mean, I guess as teaching arts subjects, there is much more freedom, but you still have to get the children through practical and written exams. So it's a fine line to walk, isn't it?
It is. That's why I think, I really enjoyed art school, because, I was taught in a very formal way. And then when I got to art school, there were no rules, I remember an art teacher once, I was doing a portrait drawing, yes, of a model. And he came over and I said, I'm having difficulties with, her arm, because I'm seeing other colours. They said, well, if you see those colours, use them. I said, but I'm seeing green. He said, use them. It was like the rules had just completely, got thrown out, which, I found really liberating for me. And after Chelsea Art School, I went on to do a BA Fine Art degree at Hornsey Art School, which was located at that time at Alexandra Palace. And that was an amazing environment. And again, all the tutors were practitioners and a lot of them, quite famous. And lots of students with completely different approaches to art. So you really enjoyed when we had the third year degree show. It was really great to go around and see what they produced. I've got a friend who has been living and working in LA for the last 35 plus years, and I haven't seen him in all that time. And when I went to this event and met a friend of mine, I asked her, I said, look, do you keep in touch with this guy? And she said, yes. I said, look, give him my details. And we managed to hook up, and he's now coming. He texted me, he's coming in August. I thought, well, that's brilliant.
That is amazing.
I've not seen him in 35 years, and I'm going to meet up with him. He wants to come and see the studio. So, yeah, I'm really pleased with that.
We are so pleased to announce that our guest artist, Anthony Nicolaou, has generously donated a stunning landscape watercolour as part of an exclusive giveaway. If you want to enter for a chance to win, it's simple. Head over to our Facebook and Instagram page and like the giveaway post and tag a friend to be entered into the live draw. Remember, you do need to do both to qualify, and stay tuned for more details about the live event. Thank you for being part of this community, and thank you for listening. Right, let's get back to the episode. So the card, I don't know if you'll be able to see that.
Children can see magic because they look for it. Oh, I really like that.
That is amazing. Children can see magic because they look for it. Talk to me about that card.
Yes. When I was a child, I was scared of the dark. And I tell you what, my imagination created the worst horrific monsters in the dark. But, that's just a way of you dealing with whatever anxieties you have,
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not scared of the dark anymore. In fact, I'm painting the dark, aren't I? But I'm lighting it up.
Isn't that beautiful?
The imagination, to me, is really important, really important. One of the things that I try to do in my work to be more creative is I'll have an idea, but this is where watercolors, I'm really enthusiastic about watercolors, because what I like doing with watercolors is I like creating accidents and mistakes. When I'm painting these nocturnes, I know exactly what it is that I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to do it, and I'm learning to improve my technique. But with the watercolors, I wet the paper, and then I just let the colors explode across the paper, because I want to be entertained when I create art. And it's brilliant that the colors just fuse and bleed into each other, and then you start to see things. And then you start to use your imagination. And I've got this watercolor. What colors did I use? I think it's just blue and black. And the paper was soaking wet. And I just spread this pigment across the paper. And when it dried, I thought, oh, do you know what? That looks a bit like Leeds Castle with a moat around it, and the trees in the background. So I'm really, really pleased with that. Oh, it looks like some medieval castle. And I enjoy that. I like watching Japanese artists, make something out of the splodges of ink that fall against the paper. I think, that is being really creative. So I think the other important point here is with education is, for students not to be afraid to make a mistake. Because your mistakes, you can learn so much more from your mistakes. And it's not about, never repeating them. It's about using them, because your mistakes could be the most interesting part of your creation.
Hello, Lucy here. I'd love for you to help spread the word. There are several ways that you can do this. One, you can subscribe to the podcast on your favourite platform, which will ensure that you never miss an episode. Two, you could share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues who might be inspired by the stories that we're sharing. Three, your reviews and ratings are incredibly important. They help new listeners discover the podcast, and they give me valuable feedback on how I can improve. So, please take a moment to leave a review. Your support is what makes this possible. I'm on a mission to inspire, motivate and empower fellow creatives to take the road less travelled, and I am so grateful to have you along on this journey with me. Until next time, stay wild.